Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, March 8th, 2021, 6 p.m. regular meeting of the Bell Garden City Council. The meeting will now come to order. Pursuant to Executive Order N2920, please be advised that members of the Bell Garden City Council will participate in today's meeting telephonically. Council members and staff are participating from remote locations. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. If any council members should have a conflict of interest virtually, please leave the room by turning off video and muting yourself. You may still keep listening to the meeting. Tonight's invocation will be given by our council member Jorge Chavez and the Pledge of Allegiance by our council member Alejandra Cortez.
Please stand.
Actually, if you don't mind, we're gonna do God before country, so we're gonna do the invocation first. Jorge, are you ready for that?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Alrighty then. All right, now that we're all standing, today we join and honor this land. The Tongva, Kish, and Chumash people have inhabited this land for over 3,000 years. We'd like to honor and recognize that we meet in their lands. Let us thank God for them and pray for them. Forgive us, those of us who are immigrants to and settlers in this country. Please help us to live and represent the people of Bell Gardens on their lands with respect. This we pray in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold good and right and true. May it be so.
Thank you.
Okay, please face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Sorry, I forgot to put myself on mute while we did that.
Thank you all for that. Really appreciate it. We are now going to do a roll call. City Clerk, can you please call the roll of the City Council?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez,
Present.
Cortez,
Present.
Flores,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Polito,
Present.
and Mayor Barcena.
Present. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Closed session report for City Council. City Attorney, will you please give the closed session report?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. As I mentioned, there was one item tonight for closed session, conference with labor negotiators. Closed session for this item was authorized pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. With respect to this item, the City Council received a briefing from staff. Unanimous direction was given, but no final action was taken on this item in closed session tonight. I'd also like to add for the agenda, or for the record, that Councilmember Flores and Councilmember Jorge were also present for, Jorge Chavez were also present for tonight's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. We will now move to the first item on the agenda. Public participation is now open for the items listed on the agenda. City Clerk, are there any speakers?
Yes, we have 4 emails that were received this evening. I'll go ahead and start with the first one. It is from Laura Cortez. Please accept my public comment number 5 to be read into the record. My name is Laura Cortez. I live in BG. It is ridiculous that the Chief of Police once again has applied to federal funding that would expend the little funds the city has, as this is a matching grant, as well focuses on responding to the critical issues of illegal immigration, violent crime, or homeland security. And furthermore, that this would be a school-based policing as stated in the agreement. I am asking with every possible hope that this council will reject this grant for the following reasons. Number 1, migration is not a critical issue. This is the fabric of our community, our grandparents, our children. Number 2, this last year has taught us that policing in schools sets our youth up for failure and completely takes away from the huge wins the city of LA has achieved by defunding school police. Number three, the city's deficit only encourages us to funnel our few resources into community building, not community separation. Thank you. The next one is from Jocelyn Del Real. My name is Jocelyn. I am a resident of the city of BG, and my comment is regarding the recent federal funds, almost $500,000, that were applied to and granted to increase policing in the schools of Bell Garden. I am disappointed at the fact that this is the biggest investment the city has sought out for our schools to increase criminalization and surveillance, rather than investing in services in our schools. With this pandemic, mental health in our student population has seen a sharp decline, and this is not a good way to welcome kids back to school. According to the ACLU, data shows that the presence of school-based mental health providers not only improvise outcomes for students, but can also improve overall school safety. By contrast, there is no evidence that increases police presence in schools improves school safety. As a former MUSD student in the city, I am appalled that this is the direction we are going rather than seeking support resources for our students. How about we find $500,000 to have mentorship programs, mental health professionals, counselors, and nurses, sanitation and COVID adaptation resources for when students return to school. Best, Jocelyn Del Real. The next one is from Mark Alamillo. And this is discussion item 11. Thank you, Police Chief. Thank you, Police Chief Fairfield, for being responsive in preparing tonight's crime statistics PowerPoint. As a community resident, I believe it's important to be informed about current crime in the city. A suggestion, maybe Neighborhood Watch Coordinator Mary Lou Travis can keep what you're presenting tonight going and create monthly crime report to be shared on social media. And then the final one is from Gustavo Mendez. Good afternoon. My public comment. Okay. My public comment. Good evening, Bell Gardens City Council. My name is Gustavo Mendez. I'm a recent homeowner at Vina La Campanas on Gage Avenue. I'm highly interested in participating in the Recreation, Cultural, and Youth Commission and/or the Education Commission. I recently sat as the chairperson for the Planning Commission and Commissioner for Public Safety in City of Cudahy. I have experience in advocating for the community by engaging with different departments within the city, other government agencies. And then in parentheses, Assembly Member Anthony Rendon's office, Senator Lena Gonzalez's office, LAUSD Board Member Jackie Goldberg's office, COFD, and then sheriffs. And community-based organizations, and in parentheses, CBE, EYCE, SELA, SELA Collaboration, WRD, River in Action, Red Cross, etc., in delivering access to information through communal events to residents. I want to continue this drive and passion in Bell Gardens. My alma mater is UC Berkeley, and I'm a current educator in Pomona Unified School District. I have worked in Compton Unified and Montebello Unified. I want to thank your City Clerk Secretary, Vanessa Quiroz, for her guidance in this commission application process. Bell Gardens City Council. I thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Kindest regards, Gustavo Mendez, UC Berkeley graduate, class of 2011. And that concludes public comments for this portion of the meeting.
Go Bears. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. And I would like to now move on to the city manager report. City manager, will you please give your report?
Thank you, Mayor Barcena. I just want to acknowledge staff and council's efforts over the last several weeks in continuing to identify eligible Bell Gardens residents for the COVID vaccination. While we don't have a vaccination site in Bell Gardens, we periodically get allocated slots. And I think definitely council and staff have put a lot of effort and priority into making sure that potentially life-saving vaccinations are getting into the arms of Bell Garden residents to the extent that we can. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank everybody for that effort. Also, with Easter coming on April 4th, this Saturday, the city's going to be hosting a Hoppy Spring Egg Hunt. It'll be at all 7 park sites from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. There'll be additional information that's posted on social media for Recreation Community Services and on the city's website. So we're happy as COVID's starting to wane to some degree to be able to offer these types of events that are a little more in person, but still COVID safe. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. We will now move to the consent calendar. Does any member of the City Council wish to pull an item for separate discussion? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve items 1 through 10?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve. Cortez?
Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Maria, by Mayor Pro Tem Maria Pulido. I will go ahead and take a vote. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Cortez?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Pulido?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Flores?
I'll go ahead and approve with the exception of item number 6.
Okay. And that is a yes for myself, so motion carries.
Mayor, may I petition this council to have the chief clarify some comments that were made during public comment with regards to item number 5 and number 6? I believe it's important to have some clarifications for our community as to not create fear amongst the immigrant community.
Okay, I'm gonna ask legal counsel, would this be the appropriate time to provide that clarification, or should we do that in the council comments?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, since these 2 items are listed on the agenda, this would be an appropriate time to have that discussion if the council wanted to have it.
Okay, thank you for that. Chief, can you please provide clarification?
Yes, it appears that they have the items based on the comments in the emails. They have the items confused. Item number 5, it has nothing to do with school funding any type of or support for schools. It has to do with the funding of 3 officers, portion of 3 officers' salaries. It's a 3-year grant that we applied for several years ago. Item number 6, what I believe they were just talking about, is the grant to improve safety on school campuses. It doesn't, first of all, it's not a matching grant. It's a zero fund. We're responsible for $0 of that nearly $500,000. That is to go to our school district to provide security gates, alert systems, items to enhance the safety of our staff, our students, and visitors on campus. And again, it has zero to do with anything to do with immigration. And it's an opportunity where we can provide funding to our schools so that they can spend money and resources in other areas, and we can assist them with making their locations safer. But again, it has nothing to do with putting officers on campuses.
Mayor, also, if I may add along the course of the last year, we have had several calls from our Bell Garden schools due to several break-ins, and that's where this grant is coming at such a great time to be able to provide extra security in the sense of just other factors like gates, as the chief mentioned, it's mainly structural items. It's not bodies in classrooms as the confusion was, but we have had several break-ins due to the pandemic. The schools are unoccupied. They just broke into Garfield Elementary, took several important items from a classroom. There was a break-in at Bell Gardens High School. So these are recurring issues in our Bell Garden schools. So I mean, as you may imagine, we don't have enough officers to be patrolling the schools all the time. So this comes at such a great time. Not only that, but from my understanding, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, the district will have a big say as to how these monies are spent in terms of the adequacy of the things that are being implemented in the schools, correct?
That's correct. This is in partnership with our school district.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief, for clarifying the question of Councilmember Cortez. And I just want to check with the city clerk that we all voted yes for the consent calendar, with the exception of Councilmember Lisette Flores, who voted no on item number 6. And that is the consent calendar. I will go ahead and move to discussion items 11 through 13. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 11?
Thank you, Mayor Barcena. The police chief will provide a citywide crime statistics report. I think this is, a highly anticipated report. It was requested by council a couple of weeks ago with a pretty quick turnaround. And I know the police chief so always excited and happy to present to the council and to the residents information on things that are going on. So I'll turn it over to the chief.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Chief Fairfield, can you do me a favor? Just check your microphone if there's any way we can speak into it. It's a little bit soft. I want to make sure everyone can hear you clearly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's do it this way. Can you hear me? Is it better? Okay, very good. Well, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to present the statistics to our community. I wish that they were better news. However, you know, the ability to look at the stats and to see what's trending in our community gives us the opportunity to utilize our resources in areas that are more urgent than others. We'll start off by just kind of talking, what are they good for and why are they important? Statistics, basically, they allow us to show patterns of crime for each year or each month. They show trends in what crimes are trending over a period of time, whether that's stolen vehicles or assaults. It also shows us locations where those are occurring so we can develop strategies in patrol. Number 3, we're also able to see who is more prone to be victims and who's more prone to be perpetrators. The Bell Gardens Police Department tracks and analyzes crime trends and crime stats to develop enforcement strategies and best utilize our resources. In addition, the Bell Gardens Police Department is required to report monthly Part 1 crime stats to the Federal Bureau of Investigations. A little bit more on the crime stats, which we call the UCR, Uniform Crime Report. They're a group of crimes that we report every month to the FBI, and over 1,700 police agencies contribute records to this UCR. They're Part 1 crimes, what I'll refer to in this report as Part 1 crimes, and they're listed below: murder, non-negligent manslaughter, forcible rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, arson, and motor vehicle theft. Everybody probably knows what most of those categories are, maybe with the exception of larceny or the difference between burglary and larceny. Larceny is a theft of items. Somebody walks up to your front porch and takes your bike without any force or fear. And it's the unlawful taking or carrying away of that possession. It excludes items taken from vehicles. So that's what larceny is. That's normally a question we get when we talk about this. We also get a question about what's the difference between robbery and burglary. Robbery must have force or fear, which means somebody must be present when a robbery takes place, and they must the crime must be committed utilizing force or fear. Burglary would be if somebody goes in your house or goes into your garage while you're asleep at night and there's no confrontation, you don't see them, they don't see you, and they take items and leave. That's the difference between burglary and robbery. We'll take a look at Part 1 crimes from 2003 to 2020. I go back that far so we can kind of get a good understanding of how crime goes up and down through the years. Part 1 crimes dropped 33% from 2003 to 2017, an average of 2.2 annually. Over the next 3 years, 2017 to 2019, we saw Part 1 crimes decrease each year, starting with 23% in 2017, then 11% in 2018, and 3% in 2019. Unfortunately, in 2020, Part 1 crimes increased by 6%. In the graph there, you can see that in 2016, there were 1,102 Part 1 crimes reported in the city of Bell Gardens. Kind of goes down each year like we discussed, and then in 2020, you see it go up 6%, where we had 771 total crimes. As you can still see, it's down quite a bit from 2016. A little analysis on 2020 crime stats. It should be noted that from 2016 to 2020, Part 1 crimes were down, like we spoke about, from 1,102, a 29% decrease. However, if we look at only violent crime, which is homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, we see that it's down by only 2% over that same period. This is mainly due to a 21% increase in violent crime just in 2020. So in the graph there, you can see Part 1 crimes in 2016, and then it was down from 2016 to 2020, it was down 29% altogether in Part 1 crimes. However, the violent portion of Part 1 crimes was only down 2%. Here's some crime stats that kind of show you the different categories of crime and how many we took in how many reported crimes we had in 2019, how many reported crimes we had in 2020, and then the percentage change all the way to the right. For as long as I can remember, we went nearly 2 years without a homicide in the city of Bell Gardens. In 2020, we had 2 gang-related homicides. Attempted rapes, we had 5 in 19 and 8 in 20. The main things to look at here is our vehicle burglary and our stolen vehicle. And then most importantly, those are property crimes. But if you look at aggravated assaults, those are up 54%, or were up 54% in 2020 from 2019. A little bit more on the 2020 crime trends. In 2020, like we spoke about, a 21% increase in violent crime. Aggravated assaults were up 54%. Assaults were also up in 3 out of 4 of our surrounding cities. However, the cities did not see as significant increase as we did here in our community. An increase in aggravated assault, specifically domestic crimes, was predictable because families were locked down indoors due to COVID. Vehicle burglaries were up 47%, and grand theft auto was up 23%. Part of this study, we reached out to our neighboring cities. You can see the cities that are listed there in the graph to determine whether or not we were on par with what was happening in those communities, or if we were an anomaly and it was just happening in our community. So you can see grand theft auto was up 23%. All 4 neighboring cities experienced a similar increase in stolen vehicles in 2020, ranging from 17% in Southgate to to 29% in the city of Bell. Nationally, stolen cars jumped 9.2% in 2020. Another and probably the most concerning trend is that in 2020 is that even though our staffing levels are at the lowest levels I've seen in my 29 years here, officers continue to recover guns at an alarming rate. As of March 21st, 2021, so just this weekend, we've recovered 28 firearms in 2020. In comparison, in all of 2019, we recovered 59 firearms. If you look down at the first graph, you can see 2019 and 2020. The increase is significant. In 2019, we had 59 recovered weapons. In 2020, we had 78. We're projected at this pace to be about 120 recovered weapons in our community, which is extremely concerning because that's what we're getting. What are we missing? What are we not getting that's roaming around our streets? Some more crime trends. After seeing the dramatic increase in weapons recovered from our community, I wanted to look and see how it correlates with gun crimes reported over that same time frame. Unfortunately, as expected, we saw violent gun crimes increase by 12.5% in 2020, including the 2 homicides that we spoke about. Fortunately, or a little bit better news is it didn't increase at the alarming rate that we're recovering guns. So even though the guns are increasing at such a rapid pace, the recovery of guns is increasing at such a rapid pace. The violent gun crimes is although increasing at a much slower pace. On a positive note, for the first 2 months of 2021, so the first 2 months of this year, we've seen a 15% decrease in violent gun crimes compared to what we saw the first 2 months of last year. A little side note, we're usually a month behind in our statistics, allowing all the reports, all the data, everything to come in, and then we put together statistics. On something like the gun crimes, I can pull that up fairly quick and get an accurate number so we can go back to almost, like I said, over the weekend and get a total number. But for the overall total Part 1 crimes, we're usually about a month behind before those are available to be published. So like I mentioned, we wanted to see where we fit in or what crime looks like in our city compared to our surrounding cities. We reached out and got these numbers from their departments, and Part 1 crimes are up in all 5 cities, ranging from 6%, which is Bell Gardens and Southgate, all the way up to 35%, which is what Bell has seen over 19 to 2020. These are additional crime stats. These are not Part 1. This is just additional stats that we keep. We'll start with arrests. So felony arrests are down 3%. Misdemeanor arrests are down 33%. Juvenile arrests are up 34%. DUI arrests are down, and you can see that total arrests altogether are down 26%. Total citations are down 47% from 2019 to 2020. Traffic collisions are positive or looking positive, and attribute a lot of that to our work with OTS and some of the things we're doing with OTS that don't necessarily include traffic citations, but allow us to put people out on overtime and impact areas that are heavily affected by either pedestrian traffic, bike traffic, or vehicle traffic. So you can see that total collisions are down 17%, injury collisions are down 19%, and non-injury are down 15%. If at any time there's a question or you need me to, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you. If you guys want me to stop or go back, just let me know. Also looked at what the LA sheriffs are doing for LA County. On March 3rd, 2021, Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva provided the following statistics. Homicides were up 170% in the areas they're responsible for. Aggravated assaults up 13.5. Vehicle theft or GTAs are up 75%. and arson is up 41%. So those are startling numbers, especially when you come to homicides. That's not even counting, those are just people who pass away from gun violence. That's an incredible number that I don't think we've seen in years. Year to date, 2020 to 2021, you can see we have 0 homicides. We're down in rapes and attempted rapes. We're down in robberies. Aggravated assaults are about even, up just by 2 so far in 2021 compared to 20. Residential burglaries, just 1 more than we had last year at this time. Commercial burglaries, there's a big jump there from 1 to 14. Larceny, down 11%. Vehicle burglaries, again, are up 61%. And stolen vehicles jumped so far at the beginning of this year, up 141%. And then arsons, much like LA County reported, are up. We had 0 last year at this time, and now we have 3 so far this year. As of March 1st, 2021, park crimes are up 63% compared to the same time last year. A large reason for that are stolen vehicles, or GTAs, are up 141%. So they jumped from 27 in 2020 to 65 in 2021. So that takes up a big chunk of that 63% increase. And then you have the vehicle burglaries, and then, as mentioned earlier, gun crimes are down 15% so far in 2021. Rape, robbery, larceny are all slightly down in 2021 as well. Some additional statistics as we really look into 2021 are the gun recoveries that we mentioned earlier. Concerning trend, not only that the guns are increasing in our community, or we're recovering more and more guns, or we're recovering what's considered ghost guns. We've recovered 10 of the 28 guns we've recovered this year have been ghost guns, what we consider ghost guns. I'll get into what ghost guns are here in a second. During the same period last year, we recovered 6 guns, so from 6 to 28 in the same time frame. And of those 6, 0 of those were ghost guns in the same time in 2020. So ghost guns are basically, they're assembled from parts or kits. A lot of the time they're receiving those items through mail, the internet, and once they're usually not completely functional at the time an individual receives them. They have to do something that requires, the purchaser has to do something to make that gun functional or fully functional. The issue with that is they don't require a background check, obviously, and they're untraceable. I reached out to our neighboring communities, and although they didn't have stats, they haven't seen the same increase in ghost guns. Some other trends in 2021, like in the Southeast area, catalytic converter thefts are skyrocketing across the United States. Catalytic converter thefts in Bell Garden. So in 2019, we had 7 reported catalytic converter thefts for that year. In 2020, we had 46 thefts reported. As of March 1st, 2021, we've had only 6 reported thefts. What are we doing about it? So in all these areas that we talk about, our staff puts together plans to try to impact certain crimes. We always focus first on violent crime, on how to impact violent crime, and then we utilize our resources in areas of quality of life issues such as the homeless, stolen vehicles and property crimes and of that sort. As part of the issues with the stolen vehicles and the converter thefts and items like that, we've deployed on multiple occasions plainclothes surveillance officers and plane cars in areas that we've determined to be high crime or high impact areas. On April 3rd, we'll be doing a catalytic converter etching event. It should be on our social media. If not, it should be going out fairly quick. I believe it's out already. So that's some stuff. Now, again, the etching event may do a little bit in deterring theft, but what it really does is it allows us to identify victims of crime, based on the license number etched into the catalytic converter. It allows detectives to go back and now actually charge individuals with the crime because we were able to link it to a victim. The question we get asked is, why is this happening? And there's several reasons that myself, most individuals in law enforcement believe. And a lot of it has to do with unintentional consequences of legislation. All well-intended legislation that it's hard to predict what might come of that, such as AB 109, the Realignment Act. It went into effect in 2011. Basically, early release of individuals who were classified as non-violent offenders. It created major changes in parole. So by 2014, our Part 1 crime went up 23%. Countywide, 35% rearrest rate through 5 of 2015 through May of 2015. Prop 47, felonies to misdemeanors. It was enacted in 2015. No state prison. Convictions carry 6 months on convictions carrying 6 months to 1 year maximum, and a maximum of $1,000 fine. Basically, what happened was for a lot of crimes like property theft, grand theft, they raised the minimum to $950. Possession of stolen property, saying the value had to be $950. Bad checks had to be $950. Possession of narcotics, there was no mandatory treatment, and more opportunity to commit property crimes over and over again. If they're misdemeanors, they're only going to go get a ticket and more than likely return home. They don't go directly to jail. They don't stay in jail, I should say. They get a ticket, go home, and await a court date, which allows them to commit more and more crime prior to their first court date. And then it's also retroactive, meaning that someone currently serving a sentence for a felony that falls under these categories that were reduced could petition the court and become eligible for release. Prop 57, the Public Safety and Rehabilitation Act of 2016. This allows parole consideration for nonviolent felons and allows juvenile court judges to decide whether juveniles will be prosecuted as adults. Under Prop 57, and this is the issue with Prop 57 in my eyes, is that the listed crimes here are considered nonviolent. Assault with a deadly weapon, battery with serious bodily injury, domestic violence, inflicting corporal injury on a child, rape, sodomy of an unconscious person by use of date drugs, human trafficking of a minor, hate crimes, arson causing injury, assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer, active participation in a street gang, exploding destructive device with intent to cause injury. So those items are listed as nonviolent, which creates a lot of loopholes in the system and allows violent offenders to be back out on the streets. There's several 2020 events that impacted crime, obviously there was major reductions in prison and jail populations due to COVID concerns. In an attempt for county and state facilities to get to a manageable number where they could social distance and do it and create a safe living environment within the jails, we began to release a lot of the prison population and jail populations and putting those people back out on the street. We also went to a zero bail, which allowed individuals who committed crimes to get a ticket or be released on their own recognizance and go back out into the community, again, to victimize. We have a new Los Angeles County District Attorney that's eliminated filing enhancements, filing guidelines, and has set in motion where they will not prosecute minors as adults. Our BG staffing levels overall department staffing is down 18%. Our sworn police officer staffing is effectively down by 22% from December of 2019 to today. The issues that creates is basically, and which impacts our traffic sites and some of those other things, is we have no traffic unit, or we either had no traffic or reduced staffing in traffic for the past year. Our gang unit has been down 1 to 2 detectives for over a year. Our record unit is down 1 clerk. Our dispatch center is down 3. The effects of low staffing levels, and this is a constant complaint that we get, is slow response times. Even though our response time to Part 1 or violent crime is very good, our response time to nonviolent offenses or quality of life issues, such as a nonviolent homeless individual trespassing or speeding on a street, whatever it might be, our response time is a little bit slower there. Next, it's less time for officers to do proactive policing. So it's less time for our officers to actually patrol areas affected by our high crime areas that we've spoke about, where maybe catalytic converters are being stolen or robberies are taking place. Well, I already mentioned the decrease in traffic enforcement, and 2020 was difficult for me, obviously, and our officers, because it gives us less opportunity to interact within the community. When we're held to response time and we go out on a call for service, it's my hope that our officers have the ability to stay out there and interact with the community and explain why they're doing what they're doing and what they can and can't do. But sometimes, due to calls for service levels, or sometimes we just can't get out to certain community events that we used to partake in or that we used to be able to do because we're low staff. Officer safety issues because of low staffing. And the biggest one probably is a potential for increased use of force or potentially deadly force, due to the fact that sometimes on calls where we would normally have 2 to 3 officers, we're only able to get 1 out there. And when there's 1 officer there and it escalates, sometimes it results in a use of force that may have been prevented with multiple officers on scene. In the fiscal year 2005-2006, the Bell Garden Police Department was budgeted for, I can't see, I got my picture in the way over here, 80 full-time employees, and 56 of those were police officer positions. For the 2021, this current budget year, 74 employees, 48 of those being police officers. As of today, we have, like I said, 1 vacancy in records, 3 in dispatch, and we currently have only 40 solo sworn officers. Overall, it's down, current staffing levels is down 18%. And we're currently hiring for anybody who'd like to come work for this great city. So conclusions, officers continue to arrest individuals multiple times a month, only to, in most cases, have to release them right back into our communities again within days, if not hours, to victimize our residents again. The lack of accountability and consequences has allowed gang members and other serious offenders to victimize our residents and business owners over and over. The women and men of the Bell Gardens Police Department are committed to protecting and serving our community. We will continue to strengthen and build partnerships with local, state, and nonprofit organizations to address the problems facing our community. We are confident that through strong community relationships and a commitment to providing proactive and compassionate policing, we can continue to work together to keep our city safe. And I'll take any questions if anybody has any questions or concerns or. I don't know if anybody's got there.
Any of my colleagues have any questions or comments in regards to the presentation? Okay, Chief.
I'll go first, or
Okay, go
make
for
some
it.
comments. I just want to thank you, Chief, and your team for putting this presentation together. I think it provides a big picture for our community as to what's going on in our community, and also it clarifies some policies that are in place with terms of and I've had several questions from residents about, like, hey, they just arrested this guy for breaking into my car, but I just saw him back on the streets. And it's like, well, that's not our policy. That's policy that's coming from a higher place, and we're just doing as we're told. So I've had to clarify that a little bit to residents, somewhat like educate them, let them know like this is what we're dealing with. So if you do see someone that just got arrested back on the street, it's not because Bell Gardens decided to do it that way. It's just that's how the policy is rolling out right now. But it's something important to clarify. But thank you, Chief, for the information.
Anyone else have any comments?
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, Chief, thank you so much for putting these statistics together. I'm sure that it's not easy to see, the numbers. We know what's happening, but once we see it, documented, it does change our perspective and gives us a better outlook on what's really happening in terms of numbers. However, I feel that we need to do better as far as, I'll just look at you since you're here. Out of respect. So, I think we have to find something to do better. I know this comes from a legislative perspective, and there's many things that need to be adjusted, right? I'm totally against being released right after, maybe committing anything against a child, right? That's against everything that I believe in. However, I do feel that maybe as a city, maybe we can put something together or have the resources available that in the event that we know that there's someone who's been released from prison, that we can have a list of resources available for them, because I feel that what happens is that sometimes people are released and they go right back to the same crowd and commit the same thing, and they're exposed to that same, environment that pushed them or allowed them to commit a crime to begin with, right? So, we know that if you have a high school diploma, the chances of you recommitting a crime are much, lower. Resources of that nature. Do we have anything like that right now? For instance, if you arrest somebody and now they have to be released, is there anything that we give them to go home with to kind of maybe just even glance at, or maybe give them that hope that there's any available resources for them to re-enter back into society?
The short answer is no, we don't. The long answer is that we invest time in individuals a lot of times that are interested in having conversation and interested in having discussions like that. But a formal program like you're mentioning, we don't. And a lot of times what happens is our officers will go in the jail, drop the arrestee off. The arrestee will then be cited out and released by our jail staff and not by an actual officer, because they're back out in the field. There's been multiple attempts by our organization and ongoing attempts and a willingness to go out in our community and to work with our youth and to have valuable conversations, not only with our youth, but we have to have those conversations with parents and the programs that we have done over the years have been effective. But you're right. The other issue here is that if you go out today, not you, but somebody goes out today, right, and steals a car, there's no incentive for that individual not to go back out and steal a car, because there's been no punishment other than an hour in jail if they get booked, if they get arrested by us and we cite them out and they go right back out. We have no authority to hold them longer than we need to if they're not under the influence or anything like that. So we turn them right back around onto the street. And because there's no immediate consequence, sometimes they build up 3 and 4 or 5 stolen vehicles or crimes before they even see the judge the first time. So now they're really behind the 8 ball when they go see that judge the first time, versus just having one crime, right? Or one stolen vehicle or one gun possession. So I would agree with you that it would take some figuring out on how we would do that. We obviously, when we come across homeless individuals and individuals who are struggling that way, we provide resources to them on a regular basis.
I'm asking this for genuine reasons, right? Because I care about my community, and I understand that because of the environment that we're in, because of the lack of resources, because of the lack of education, because of the lack of opportunities, because of the lack of money in our community and education from a lot of our residents, a lot of people don't feel like they have another option than to commit these crimes to like get quick $50 for whatever X, reason. but I do believe in second chances. And when they get arrested here, I think that we have to do something, just do better and give them options to be able to re-enter our community, because they're going back out to Bell Gardens. You know, like, I mean, I am telling you, I just a few days ago, I was a victim. Someone tried to break into my house and tried to break into my car. You know, I got it all on my Ring camera, and it sucks, right? But then they tried it again 2 days later. I was like, these guys don't give up. They're relentless, you know? But I feel a sense of, I feel bad, you know, because I feel like what's the need? The need is so bad that they keep coming back, and it wasn't even the same group of guys, right? So what I want to do, city manager, is, and maybe with the help of our Parks and Rec director, who's very resourceful, and I know you guys are too, to maybe create a plan that where we can give them resources. I don't know if it's phone numbers, a caseworker, a social worker, something, so that when they get arrested in Bell Gardens, we have a list of options for them, whether it be like, have you thought about getting your, I don't know, you know, a mechanic license, a welding license? I mean, anything to get them creative, to get their minds and engines thinking, you know, to get out of whatever is making them cause these crimes. Because I know that there's a whole reentry program at the county level and different, you know, different places down the, you know, the scheme of things. But I feel like we need to provide something too.
I would agree with you, and I will agree and disagree I don't think there's an excuse for stealing somebody's car. I understand if you can't afford food and you're stealing to put food on your table, you're doing it for those purposes. I don't agree with it, but I understand it, and I sympathize with that. But the majority of the repeat offenders we're getting are for the thrill of it, for the stolen vehicle part of it, for either, you know, they're not, at least the ones that we've spoken to are that we arrest 3 or 4 times for stolen vehicles over and over and over again. They're not stealing the vehicle for anything other than transportation or the mere thrill of it. So most of our cars aren't stripped. They're just taken from one place to another. The number of vehicle pursuits are up, and it. So I agree with you that there's, and we really do try to focus, because we only have so many resources. We do try to focus on the individuals like you're mentioning, where I've known individuals that bought people food who got arrested for shoplifting. I know our officers have bought food for them in past and done things like that. I agree with you. There is a certain portion of those individuals that we are arresting that we could impact better.
And just to respond also, Councilmember Flores. So obviously the chief and our Recreation Community Services Director, myself, can meet to discuss and possibly report back to council.
That sounds great. It sounds like a solution, you know, to improve the quality of life of the residents who are being victimized, just as well as those that are committing, you know, petty crime or whatnot. Thank you, Chief.
Councilmember Chavez, do you have any comments?
Thank you for that, Mayor Barcena. I appreciate the recognition. Thank you so much, Chief, for bringing this up. I think it was maybe for about close a month that I had been asking for the report on the crimes, because I myself has seen it, you know, throughout the city. Something that I didn't notice in the presentation, and maybe that's because it's not one of the part 1 index part 1 crimes, is the graffiti. I've seen a spike in graffiti. A lot of locations throughout the city, whether it's around our parks. We've had, you know, I was a victim of graffiti when my stuff was a victim of graffiti when I was a candidate, right? Local businesses, Rocio's got tagged up really bad as well, right? A small mom and pop business that can possibly afford to paint their business again, right? I think it took them about a week or so to finally have that. They were also broken into, and I sympathize with that, and I feel like we need to do more to try to mitigate that. I'll echo what Councilwoman Flores had mentioned in regards to alternatives to simply putting people in and locking them up, right? Finding alternatives in redeveloping our community, redeveloping these individuals, finding alternatives to stay away from that and focus on this, focus on the betterment. I think we have a really great opportunity with our Parks and Rec department. And what I would encourage is having our police department be present, maybe do a partnership between both of the departments and have them kind of encourage one another, right? Whether that's having our officers be coaches, mentors, to a lot of the folks that interact with the Parks and Rec, because when I think of Parks and Rec, I think of sports. I think of being active in the parks, obviously, in different ways, right? Not just that, but also food drives, right? They're the ones who interact with our community. I'd say perhaps the most in a lot of these cases, right? When we're growing up in our community of Bell Gardens, we go to the parks, Mayor Barcena is a skater, right? I mean, this is kind of the things I skated here too. And I think it really begins growing up. I think it really begins being conscious of the neighborhood we live in, our neighbors, our community as a whole. And I feel like we can probably deter folks from going into crime in the first place by encouraging and focusing on these programs that are already put in place, and perhaps we need to start seeking more. I was an intern this last summer at Hub Cities Consortium, and we had a caseworker. I had a caseworker who was a colleague of mine, who was working with previously incarcerated individuals, right, trying to get them to go in the right direction, right. What I would say is before they even become prisoners in the first place, right, we're focusing on the afterwards, right. I would say we should just have a work internship program already set in place for our individuals, right, because I think a lot of times the thing that encourages residents to do things like this is because they either just have an influx of time, or they're not seeing it clearly, or maybe just something happened in their upbringing. So what I would say is I'd encourage both of our departments to work together on this issue, because I think crime a lot of times is connected to programs and entities that are surrounding a community, right? Reinvesting back into the community. That's what I would say. But yeah.
If I can, unfortunately, you came into council during 2020, where we were unable to be out in the community like we are on a regular basis in all the years previous. We have a program like you're speaking about. We have our Explorer program that reaches out into our community and has developed a ton of our local youth into outstanding contributing factors in high school, college, military, law enforcement, and overall in our communities. We do partner with Parks and Rec multiple times. Just this past year, we partnered with them on a food drive. We also partnered with them on the Halloween event where our officers were there on their time at those events. We are out with, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Roseanne might help me. The young kids, developmentally disabled kids. You guys have a program that our officers participated in.
The STAR program, Chief.
That actually worked and came in on their own time. We're doing all those things you mentioned and more than I've been able to mention here, but 2020 really set us back a little bit. I'd be more than willing to talk with you anytime about all the programs that we do and have done. And I'm always interested in doing what or looking into any of those ideas that can make us more effective in the community. And lastly, we do focus on prevention and rehabilitation, but unfortunately, somewhere in the middle, there has to be the enforcement part. And that's unfortunately what we're dealing with more now than ever. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chief. And if I may add one more part, man.
Just be mindful of our time. We do still have one. We have Mayor Pro Tem who hasn't participated yet, and we want to move the business forward. But go ahead, Mr. Chavez.
Thank you so much, Mayor Barson. I just want to make one more quick point, and it's in regards to the ring program. I noticed that's something that wasn't mentioned in regards to probably deterring crime. Also, I know other police agencies. I know, I believe in the City of Commerce that's been done. I know we've done it before as well, and I'm curious to know if that's something that probably is still put in place. And essentially, I'll let the chief speak a little bit about it in the past, but I think that's something that's great, and I think maybe more residents need to know about it, right? And it's a good investment, I think.
Yeah, we did do probably a year and a half ago or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. We did, and I believe we gave out over 100 discounted ring devices to the community. Had to be a resident in the community. The police department picked up the difference, which was around $10,000. That didn't come out of our general budget. It came out of a different budget or asset forfeiture budget. And that was a program that we did probably before any of our neighbors did anything like that. I think maybe one of our neighbors had done something or was scheduled to do something, but I think we ended up doing it first. But
Thank you for that, Chief. Mayor Pro Tem Pulido, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, thank you, Chief, for putting together this timely and comprehensive presentation and for helping us understand what really is going on in the street. I do really appreciate the engagement that you and our department has had with our community, with our youth. I know that 2020, like you mentioned, impacted that engagement, but you have embraced our community and have made our officers very approachable. So I really thank you for that. And it's been such a great job that all of you have done while considering the staffing shortages that we do have and we still continue to manage. And hopefully soon we can fill some of those vacancies so that the engagement aspect of it can come back and the crime rates can potentially go down as well. So I think that you've done a great job in managing everything that's on your plate while having staffing shortages. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for your comments. Chief Fairfield, I want to thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate all the data that you provided. I feel like that was very helpful for me to kind of check the pulse of the city and see how we're doing in regards to crime. I know that Councilmember Jorge Chavez was instrumental in pushing this particular item through the agenda, so thank you, Councilmember Chavez. I do want to mention a few words in regards to the contents of the presentation and also the comments that were said during this meeting. I think there's some truth in all of our perspectives, and I think we need to make sure that we tune into those particular truths. But at the same time, in the same way that we wouldn't rely on each other's opinion in regards to maybe like a engineering plan for a building, we need to really, when we're thinking about these things, we need to place our value on scholars that are actually studying this as a career, you know, political scientists or social scientists, because they're the ones that study the reasons why populations might be committing crimes, right? It will be a mistake for us to point the finger and blame somebody when we don't understand really the scope of their entire life, their entire trajectory, and the reasons why they might be compelled to commit a crime. That doesn't mean that we're going to be just taking everything that they impose upon us as if there are no consequences. We need to address the issues. We need to be responsible and accountable. But at the same time, we need to be mindful that the issues that we're seeing at a surface level, for example, stealing catalytic converters, which in itself I would imagine is quite a task, is not really, cannot just be blamed on somebody being bad, right? There is an entire set of reasons behind that action that tend to contribute, that tend to be a result of socioeconomic distress, that tend to be a result of alienation, that tend to be a result of many other disadvantages. It's never black and white. There's always different things to take into account, but let's be mindful that we need to rely on data and we need to rely on the expertise of people that study and dedicate their lives to studying society, right? To study the different classes and the different movements that may result in these disruptions in our cities. So just wanted to throw that out there. I hope it wasn't too big of a rant. And I do want to thank Anaya's Auto Repair. It's a local repair shop, and they're working in collaboration with the chief to provide this etching event that's going on April 3rd, Chief, is that correct? Right, April 3rd. And as the chief mentioned, this is not a magic bullet, no pun intended, but this is actually just an effort that is well received. And we are very thankful for the police department doing this and putting it forward. And I believe another co-sponsor of this event is Mr. C's Towing. So thank you for that as well. And please tune into our social media. Councilmember Jorge Chavez has the info. He's showing it there, but it's also in most of our social media accounts. So again, Chief, I really appreciate this report, and let's continue to get educated. One last comment, two recommendations that I'm going to make here, Mr. City Manager. If you can please set up a meeting with the chief and myself, I would like to see how we can funnel the hub cities services to see if we can maybe package them up for people that are arrested or messed up and committed a crime. They offer a lot of resources that might be applicable to some of these residents or maybe just members of the surrounding communities, and we might be able to refer them to try to get some benefit out of these services that we already subscribe to.
Yes, Mayor Barcena, we'll have a comprehensive meeting with the chief circling back on all this.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And the last thing, it's escaping my mind now, but I'll probably talk about that in the council comments. But thank you so much again, Chief. And we will now be, do we need to vote, legal counsel, do we need to vote to receive and file, or can we just receive and file?
Yes, Mayor, if we could have a vote to receive and file this report.
Okay, I will motion to receive and file. Can I have a second?
I'll go
Second
ahead and
that.
second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Flores. And can I have Chavez vote on that, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Cortez?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Flores?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido?
Yes.
Yes, and yes for myself, so motion carries to receive and file. Okay, City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 12?
Thanks again, Mayor Barcena. So this item is the consideration on whether or not we should increase the number of food distributions for the remainder of the fiscal year. So staff had a request from council regarding potentially offering a second food distribution. So currently we do a once a month food distribution on the third Saturday of the month. We budgeted about $25,000. Looks like we'll spend about $20,000. And there was a suggestion or question that was brought up as to whether or not we could or should do a second food distribution. So I'll turn it over to our Recreation Community Services Director, Rosanna Danto, to talk about what we're doing currently, what the additional need might be, and what the cost and recommendation is from staff, and then also to seek further council direction.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Mayor Barcena, and City Council. Good evening. As the city manager mentioned, since the pandemic hit and since the allocation of the additional funding for community benefit, approximately $25,000 was allocated for us to do monthly food distributions as well as maintain an emergency food bank, of which we have been doing. We've also, during this period, have at times been able to have the larger distributions as we did at Christmas, as we did a few months ago or last August with the LA Food Bank. And so we at times have been able to leverage, again, I've made the request to LA Food Bank to try to leverage some additional resources for a larger food distribution of about 2,000 families. So approximately 300 to 500 families are provided food items and diapers when available. It's conducted at Veterans Park. And we have some that are registered participants and others that are just community that find out about it on social media and come by. And so staffing for this is approximately 2 full-time staff. I've been able to rotate staff so it doesn't become that one person or 2 people have to be there every distribution. And then we bring on about 6 part-timers. Initially, we tried to do it with volunteers, but with COVID and the exposure rates, we opted just to bring on our part-time staff. And so we have a contract with Crescent Food Bank, and they provide us with the food items monthly. And they usually let us know about the week before what items we'll have. And last month, or this past Saturday, it was a lot of perishable and non-perishable items. And so it was a pretty hearty box. We approximately have about $4,000 left. Just need some direction. It would be about $3,200 for 3 additional food distributions for April, May, and June, which will get us through the remainder of the fiscal year. And again, we'll still maintain the emergency food bank on an ongoing basis. And that's if a resident in between a food distribution or something comes up, a fire or whatever, we're able to assist the family with food items immediately. We also have some cards where we can send them to Food for Less to pick up some perishable items and to sustain the family for a few days. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Staff is just looking for direction as to how to proceed. Thank you very much.
And Mayor Barson, I think Roseanne, if you can agree, I think maybe so we could be more pointed for the council. I think the direction at this point that staff would recommend would be to direct us to offer an additional food distribution per month in April, May, and June on the first Saturday of the month for 500 families using the existing budget that we have.
That's
Mayor,
correct.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilmember Cortez, please go ahead.
Yes, I just had a question, Roseanne. I know that this past weekend you had some extras, or this past distribution you had some extra food portions that weren't distributed. I'm just wondering, are you falling short the Saturdays when you're distributing to the 500 families, or is it that an okay amount?
Usually it's an okay amount. Sometimes the word gets out a little bit more and people pass out the word amongst their neighbors and come on over sometimes if there's extra. But what we do is if there are some items that are left over that are non-perishable items, we will box them and put those items in our food pantry so nothing ever goes to waste. And then what we'll do is with perishable items, we'll distribute at the senior meal program on Tuesday. We'll refrigerate everything. And then on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, when we distribute meals from the senior center, we'll include those items with their packages. So nothing ever goes to waste.
Excellent. Okay, well, that was just my question. I think it's a great idea to ramp up our efforts during these hopefully last couple of months of this pandemic. And then just keep an eye on it to see if we need to send more funding that way. But I do want to highlight and take this moment to highlight that this is not the only food resource that our city is providing. And I do want to highlight the great work of our Parks and Recs department. They continue to offer, and this began, actually it's going to be a year. We began, I requested for meals to be handed out to our students during spring break as the school district was going to close down. And Roseanne took it upon herself to find meals to provide to all of our students in the city of Bell Gardens. And they were great, great meals, I remember. And now it's been a year that you distribute every single weekday to our students. Even though the school district is also giving them their own portion of food, the City of Bell Gardens continues to do that. You continue to provide meals for our senior citizens. You do the monthly food boxes for the 500 families. You have the food pantry. So I'm very grateful, Roseanne, to you and to your department for this great work that is being done in our city, because we haven't gone hungry, and it's thanks to you. It's thanks to your resources. It's thanks to the department going out and seeking these resources. One important thing to highlight is even the partnership that you created with Crescent Food Bank. They're an Orange County based food bank, but they've been amazing in supplying us all these food boxes for our community. So I do want to thank also the Crescent Food Bank and being an amazing partner to the City of Bell Gardens. And they also helped us for several food drives. Oh, and then not to mention the several food drives that we did have at a large scale. So just thank you, and please pass on my commendations to your department.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilwoman Cortez. Do we have any other comments from council?
Mayor Barcena, if I may.
Please go ahead, Mr. Chavez.
Thank you so much. First off, I want to thank Mike for I was able to talk to him about it, and we had a quick chat about it maybe 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in regards to this, and I'm glad that this was being brought to us now. This is something I'm really passionate for. I've been to every food drive, every food distribution that we've had. I think with the exception of I think it was the first monthly one that we had set it up. And at every single one of them, there has always been folks that either have trouble, transporting the goods from one side from one side of the city to wherever they live because they had to walk it all the way. That seems to be one trouble. And then two is the fact that some of them don't know about it until that day of. And then the third one is that people end up coming late a couple minutes and they didn't manage to get a box. I think that goes to show a lot of things. I think our community wants another food drive. I think we need to provide a second food drive throughout the month. What I would encourage is say, we need to look at, we have the current way we have it is between 300 to 500. I think this last weekend when I was there, we had about maybe 300-ish, give or take. Um, and I was looking at that, and I don't know how, if I may ask, Roseanne, how many do we know? Like, is it for sure we're gonna get 500 or 300, or because I mean 200 boxes of food, it's a difference maker, right? For a lot of our community, right? It's whether or not we can give 200 boxes to 200 cars in a sense, right? And sometimes, and what I've noticed a lot is many families come in one car, right? I think that's to say that, sometimes they feel that they need to come in a car because they feel like we don't have a walk-up when in reality we do. I also want to point out diapers. Diapers were not given this last weekend. So I would want to know how that works, right? How do we know for sure if we have diapers, or not? Because I did have a couple folks reach out in regards to diapers. Um, you know, and then finally, how much food do we have in an emergency at the moment, right? I remember, I see something along the lines that we've had a couple, but I mean, to an exact amount, I don't know how many folks we have calling in and stuff asking for emergency.
So the combination boxes, which are the perishable and non-perishable items, are a little bit more expensive than the non-perishable boxes. And so what we try to do is every month we rotate between perishable and non-perishable boxes, and a lot has to do with what the food banks are receiving. So our communication with the food bank is usually about a week before, and they'll tell us we have X amount, we'll be able to provide you with the following, and then we place our number order. So a lot has to do with what's available. As far as diapers, usually when we do perishable and non-perishable, because of the cost of those, we don't do diapers, but we do have diapers available if residents are asking for diapers, because if we get diapers for one and we don't give them all out, we put them away. As far as the closet, or what we call the food bank at Veterans Park, on any given day, we could probably provide food to 25 families. And that is replenished as needed. So that's part of the agreement with Crescent. So that is a separate call that we'll make and say our food bank is low and we need X amount of baskets. Part of why we don't have more is because we don't have room for more. So what we do is we've dedicated a closet of sort, and on any given day, we could provide at least 25 families. And the next day we can have 25 more, and the next day we can have 25 more. So that agreement is in place. On an average, we might get 1 to 3 people a week and families. When a family does come, if it's 2 or 3 families per car, no questions asked. All we say is, how many families are we providing food for? We don't ask any questions in regards to that. So if a family comes up and says there's 2 families, then they get double the portions and they can drive away. We have advertised that their drive throughs, but we in all instances have always done a walk up, and it's just to kind of try to discourage, and a lot has to do with the safety of our staff and our volunteers. So what we can do is sit down with Crescent. If we need to increase our numbers, I usually have a discussion with staff. How did it go? Where are we with numbers? Staff may say, well, we need 300 or 400. We need more. We have this left over, so we're putting this in the pantry. So every month it's a little different. When it's a holiday, such as Easter, the numbers, the allocation is also going to be greater. We're aware of those situations. So that first Saturday of Easter week will, if this is agreed upon, the allocation would probably be a little bit larger.
Alrighty then. Thank you so much for that clarification. I'm trying to look. Yeah, I want to see. I would like to see 2 food drives. Obviously, the one that we have in the 3rd Saturday of the month. I think that's right, hitting it right on the dot. And then what I would say, and I would encourage the rest of my colleagues to also consider, is probably for the other food drive, maybe do it the 1st of the month, seeing as throughout the first week of the month, families are coming to or had passed or coming up to the they just paid rent essentially, right? So I think that's an important thing to consider, right? 80% of our community is renters as well. Another fact. So I mean, overall, I mean, I'll continue to be out there supporting this. I appreciate all the work that our staff does, and what I would also consider is what I would also encourage is for possibly our rec department to look into other collaborations that we could do, right? I know that we've seen a bunch of pop-up food distributions events all over the Southeast happening with different offices. And in the past, what I've seen is that sometimes when this occurs, we end up double dipping the food drives, right? So there'll be 2 food drives, one in Cudahy and one here in Bell Gardens, and sometimes our numbers get impacted by that, right? But I'm pretty sure that the whole Southeast region is considerate and understands that this is something that is needed in our communities. With that said, I appreciate it, and I really hope to see this pass through.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez, for your comments. Anyone else have any comments?
Just a quick comment. Thank you so much, Roseanne, for all of the work that you guys have been doing. I just wanted to add, there's also the HSA giveaway for seniors where our staff delivers food. I think, is it Tuesdays and Wednesdays? Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they get on the actual city vehicle. They load up the back of the truck and they go home to home delivering foods to seniors and those who need it. So thank you so much for that. I know that sometimes we don't appreciate or you don't hear the appreciation coming, but the gratitude is 100% there. I speak for myself, but I'm sure everybody feels the same way. So thank you so much for that. And what I'm hearing, I guess, is that we do need these services. So I'm in all agreement with this. So I'm ready for whatever motion needs to be made to put this forward.
Thank you, Councilwoman Flores. Anyone else have any comments? Mayor Pro Tem Pulido, anything to comment? No? Okay. Well, as everyone already said, Roseanne, I really appreciate everything that you do. I don't think I need to mention it. You've been doing an outstanding job. I want to remind the council that our staff, they're experts at what they do, and we're really blessed with them providing their services to us. So let's be mindful of the recommendations. It sounds like there is a possibility for us to benefit from an additional food distribution, but at the same time, it does sound like we're sort of right there where we're getting everything out the door and people are coming. Maybe there's some that are missing out. So it doesn't hurt to try a little bit, try another food distribution and see if it gets picked up. Now, while we're doing that, what I would like to encourage our staff to do is to maybe slightly modify the marketing efforts for this. It feels weird to call them marketing efforts, but the outreach, right? The outreach that we're doing, let's see if we can fine tune it. I mean, our marketing people have been doing an outstanding job as well. I do want to mention Hylis, who does a lot of the social media. He's done an amazing job ever since he got started, so we really appreciate that. That doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement, and more than anything, it's probably just experimentation, because with this promotional work, you always have to try out different things and see what what works. So I want to encourage staff to go ahead and try this new food distribution with a slightly different approach to the promotion process. And I will go ahead and make a motion to offer an additional food distribution April, May, and June using the existing funds.
I'll second that motion.
And it'll be a second by Councilmember Cortez. I will take it to a vote. Councilmember Chavez,
Absolutely.
thank you. Cortez,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido,
Yes.
thank you. And yes, for myself, so motion carries. And again, thank you all for being cooperative and being flexible with the request that the council makes. And let's go ahead and try this out and see if it works. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 13?
Thanks again, Mayor Barcena. This one is for the City Council to review the Commission's appointment list. I think there may be at least one council member that would like to add to fill one of their vacancies, and also the rest of the council can take a look as well. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Do I have any motions to make changes to the local commission's appointment list?
Mayor Barcena?
Yes?
I'd like to make a motion to, I'd like to recommend Miguel Flores for my Education Commission.
Okay, I will go ahead and second that motion. Anybody else? Let's go ahead and take it to a vote. Chavez,
Yes.
Cortez,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido,
Yes.
and yes for myself, so motion carries. Public participation is now open for non-agenda items. City Clerk, are there any speakers?
Yes, yes, Mayor, we have two speakers. Well, we have one that has requested to be called. His name is Bralio Baltazar. So I'll go ahead and place that call, and then we've got one email to read.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Please leave your message for 5.
And the next one is an email from, Mark Alamino. Good evening, Council and City Administration. I am happy to see Supervisor Solis finally paying attention to residents of Bell Gardens in the Southeast. Although the newly opened Bell Community Center will only administer 200 vaccinations a day, and the mobile unit does far less. I hope she continues to advocate to bring even more daily vaccination appointments to this much needed area. Also, during a previous council meeting, a resident spoke about ongoing noise issues with his neighbors. This quality of life issue is something we all deal with in this city, and I'm sure the police department gets its share of calls regarding noise and music. Is there a status update with adopting a new city code that would help officers give clear guidance in issuing citations when those calls are made? Also, 4th of July is around the corner. That means illegal fireworks season is almost here. I hope our officers continue to crack down on those calls too. May the 105 Bell Garden residents that have passed away due to COVID-19 rest in peace. Thank you for your time. Mark Alamillo. That concludes public comment, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. If there's no objection by the City Council, I will close public participation. We will now move to council comments. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I was having trouble figuring out the unmute thing. So just a quick, just want to touch on a couple things coming up, and hopefully everyone comes out. So we got our BG, Bell Gardens and Sensors collaboration with Bell Gardens Police Department and our Explorers coming up this Saturday. It's going to be, I don't know exactly location, but we're basically going to be cleaning up the city, streets, alleyways. A lot of our community is going to come out. Hope to see the rest of my colleagues out there. I'll be out there. And it's just great stuff. At the same time, we're going to be having our citywide Easter egg. What is it called? City Easter egg hunt drive-through. So I have it right here. So hopefully everyone can come out. Here are the list of the parks that are going to be a part of that. We got Veterans Park, the high school, Ford Park, Julia Asmus Park, Marlowe Park, Neighborhood Youth Center, and Gallant Park. So don't forget about that. That's also happening this Saturday. Another thing, a really important thing, an amazing thing that happened today. We have for our community here in the Southeast LA region, we finally have a community center vaccination site. So there was a press conference today in the city of Bell. It was really great stuff. We finally have a designated vaccination site for the residents and workers of the Southeast LA region. That's including us. It's in the city of Bell. In their Bell Community Center. To schedule an appointment, you can call between Monday through Friday, between 9 through 6 p.m. And the number is 323-538. Hopefully I could show out there. 323-538-7802. Really great stuff. It's a collaborative between Bell Gardens, Huntington Park, Maywood, Vernon, City of Commerce, Walnut Park, and the County of LA. So really appreciate Southgate as well, Cudahy, and I really appreciate our supervisors, Hilda Solis, for bringing this to our region. This isn't, you don't have to go on the website to make an appointment. You could just call in, right? It's much more flexible to our residents for the lack, because a lot of our communities do have either don't have access to the internet. So I'm glad that we finally have this. So really happy that came out. Also, last time we had our meeting, the following day I had my Chavez community charlas. So that went really well. It was basically me going on live stream for about an hour and just talking about various things that were going on throughout the city, not just here in BG, but around the county, and just some of my thoughts and throwing them out there. I plan on having them maybe about once a month. So I encourage residents who are looking out there and who want to know a little bit about me. If you don't follow me on my social medias, go for it, and I'll respond to you, and we can kind of interact back and forth. Another thing that I want to talk on, I'm trying to stay within the 6 minutes. So someone reached out to me in regards to a survey that's being done in regards to water. It's called Water Talks. I don't know too much about it, but essentially they're encouraging us to fill out a survey specifically for residents of Bell Gardens. So it's to ensure that for any future water projects, our community's input is being brought to the table. So I'll eventually connect with city staff and have them kind of, maybe put something on social media if it's not already there. And it's really important. It's only like a 10-minute survey, and it's pretty straightforward. Other than that, I believe that should be it. Oh, final thing. The last time we met, we had our COVID memorial. service event held. So I want to report back on that item. The event went really well. I believe our city was the most phenomenal in terms of the way it was put on. So I really want to thank staff, Parks and Rec Department, who put that on. I really appreciate it. And I think it really goes to show a sense of unity across our Southeast LA region. And I'm just really proud that Bell Gardens has a big niche within that region, and I'm glad that we each get to serve and represent that. So with that said, I'd like to conclude my council member comments, and I look forward to seeing everyone this Saturday at our cleanup.
Thank you, Councilmember Jorge. I just thought of maybe a potential name for your charlas. How about charlas with Chavez? You know, that would be a good name. Maybe come up with a logo too. That'd be nice.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Councilwoman Cortez.
Thank you, Mayor Barcena. With respect to my announcements, I do want to thank our Parks and Recs and our City Manager's Office for the vaccine efforts that were conducted this past week. The LA County called us maybe the day before, maybe within a day's notice, that they had 100 vaccine opportunities available for our community, and our Parks and Recs staff and our City Manager's Office mobilized, and they were able to get over 100, I believe it was slightly over 100 people vaccinated in the city of Bell Gardens. So I appreciate you, Roseanne. You did this within a day's notice. You had a very stringent timelines, but it was a great effort that was put forward. As Councilmember Chavez mentioned, thankfully now we also have the Bell Community Vaccine Center that's going to complement these efforts to allow our community to receive vaccines within proximity of their home. There's also going to be free transportation provided. So when you do call, go ahead and let them know that you need transportation. And just one thing that's great about this, as Councilmember Chavez mentioned, there is a hotline or there's a number for you to call to register to make your appointment. But what's important, I know a lot of us are discouraged about the LA County's number because it's long wait times. You have to be on the phone for a really long time. This one is just going to service the cities that are mentioned in the flyer, which is pretty much the Sala community. So that's a great advantage. And your call is going directly to the Bell Community Center, where there will be staff ready to take and to help make your appointment so that you don't have to go online. So if you do qualify, please go ahead and call to make your appointments. If we all get vaccinated, we save lives. I do want to just to reiterate, invite everyone to the Bell Gardens Police Department BG Strong Community Cleanup. It is this Saturday. The meeting location will be at our City Hall parking lot. They will be enforcing COVID safety measures. This is the cleanup that I mentioned at our last council meeting that was going to be done in conjunction with the Neighborhood Watch and the Bell Gardens Uncensored group. However, our Bell Gardens Police Department was so gracious to take over the cleanup along with our Explorer post and make it their own. So I'm very happy that that's happening in the collaboration with some very important members of our community. And I do want to highlight Cristina Paulo, Oscar Boado, and Daniel Arrow for being instrumental in the coordination of this community cleanup. So we hope everybody can come and join us. Of course, only if you're safe to do so. Please wear your mask. We're going to enforce 6 feet, distance measures. And again, it's this Saturday, March 27 at 8 a.m. So if you're not attending our egg hunt, then you are welcome to come to the cleanup, or come to the cleanup, then go to the egg hunt. You have 2 options for this weekend. Also, the chief mentioned our catalytic converter event. It's going to be on April 3rd. The Bell Gardens Police Department is doing this in conjunction with Anayas and Mr. C's Towing. So everybody, if you have questions, there's the flyers will be posted online, or you can always call City Hall if you need more information. And with that, that's pretty much it. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Councilmember Cortez, for covering all those events. Really looking forward to the cleanup and also the catalytic converter etching event. Councilwoman Flores?
Yes, thank you. A couple of items that I want to talk about. One of them is just this weekend. Was it this weekend? Yeah, this weekend, 2 days ago, I was in the city of Huntington Park with an assembly member who co-authored a new bill. It's a new COVID state-funded rent relief. So the way it works is that we will work with your landlord. So perhaps let's say that you are behind on your rent. we will work with your landlord and pay them 80% of your rent so that he can forgive the 20%. And now you will no longer be evicted and your rent will be considered paid. Now, this is a new rent relief program funded by the state, so the funds will run out eventually. And it should be mentioned that Bell Gardens is the one taking care of it, but it's open to all of the Southeast communities. So if you're here watching this meeting, I encourage you to please take advantage of this program, because if not, other cities are going to, take up large sum of that. But there is enough to go around. I don't want to, misconstrue that, but there is enough to go around. We just want you to make sure that our residents are being taken care of, because we know that in our city, unlike the rest of Southeast LA, we do have the biggest renting population. So we really want to help you guys out. Please take advantage of that. You can reach out to Daisy or Parks and Rec, and they'll go ahead and guide you through the process. You can also fill out the application online. So please take advantage of that. Also, if you're a landlord, we're also speaking to you.
Councilmember Flores, I want to ask a question about your previous piece of information. Is there a deadline for that that people need to worry about? I know that we might run out due to availability of those funds, but is there another deadline or anything of that nature?
As of right now, there hasn't been a listed deadline, but there is going to be one. Roseanne, do you know that deadline? Because it just became available on Friday, so it's just brand new. It's still like, I think, a developing situation as far as that goes, but there's no deadline as of right now.
Councilperson, the program is going to run for the next 9 months or until funding runs out. And anybody who is interested in applying, whether you're a landlord or a tenant, you can contact the Community Family Service Center. Diana Ortiz is the staff member overseeing the program, and she can assist either the landlord or tenant apply online or in person. But we're here to provide the service if needed.
And the phone number for that, Marco, is area code 562-806-7654. And like Roseanne mentioned, the person in charge is Diane Ortiz.
Thank you.
Yes. I also wanted to touch on the COVID memorial. It was a very beautiful, event, as beautiful as it could have been. There was definitely a collaboration, and we did collect, we shared a collective grief, as I mentioned that night. We had a mariachi out there for our residents, and we played a couple of, serenades for those who lost a loved one. And we had our father from across the street, Father Nabor, who was visiting us, and said a couple of beautiful words for our community. So that was a very nice event. Also, I want to talk about a little bit about the vaccinations and what's been going on. So I'm going to take you guys back. In recent weeks, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, we've known that the numbers came out after the case study that was done in Lynwood, that the city of Lynwood was the most affected by COVID in the entire country. City of Lynwood. Now, when they searched out on that, they looked at it was out as a region, and it was our region that was the most affected in the Southeast. The Southeast was the most affected out of everybody in the entire nation. And it was really, discouraging and heartening to look at those numbers, because we thought that although we were going through this, that maybe other places across the country were going through the same thing, but it turns out that they weren't, and that they were not. So a group of us called Solo United got together, and we asked for meetings with our congresswoman, with our assembly member, with our senators, with our county supervisors. I mean, we made a ruckus that was impossible to ignore. And within the days coming, everybody, all of the legislative members and everybody I just mentioned, were already working on their efforts to help us out as well. So with that push, all of these, from the Congresswoman's office to the supervisor's office, they all helped us and guided us who to ask who for what. And it was a lot of work. There were times where they called us and said, you have 24 hours to register 500 people. It's a test, either you take it or you don't. And we were literally from sunrise to sundown registering people. I went over to different restaurants and registered people right there and then. And when I couldn't do it, I would send it to another councilwoman from a different city and said, here, take over this restaurant, take over that family. And it was a lot of work. It was tears, frustrating conversations. And as a result of everybody's efforts, we had FEMA come down. It was voted up in the DC by a congresswoman who was then, working with our supervisor. And FEMA came down to Southgate and registered, vaccinated almost about 200 Bell Gardens residents. Then we had another one in Downey. We registered another like 100 and something residents. Before that, with Christina Garcia, we vaccinated more residents. So in total, we have been working, night and day. And I want to just thank everybody who's been a part of this effort. Roseanne has been very, very instrumental in making sure that the information goes to the correct parties to make sure that our residents are being vaccinated. And not too long ago, we met with Governor Newsom. He actually came down to the FEMA location in the city of Southgate. I had the pleasure of speaking with him and pleading and asking for equitable accessibility for vaccinations in our city. And as you guys know, today was the the press conference announcing the new vaccination site in the city of Bell. And I just want to let you know that today is a victory day. It really is, because it's been really hard. And if you look at other communities, nobody has what is now available to our region. It was a collective effort, and it just goes to show what a lot of people, when they work together, can accomplish. And so I know that they announced the phone number for the vaccine site, but I did hear from residents that the fact that the phone number is not working because it's being bombarded. So I'm going to give you an email address. It's vaccine@cityofbell.org. If you email them with your name, your phone number, your date of birth, they're going to call you back and give you an appointment. So that's a guaranteed way to get through if you are not going through the lines. The purpose of the phone number is to take out the digital divide. But in the event that you do have the ability to send an email or help someone else get through, I encourage you to please do that, because there are so many people out there who have not been vaccinated as of right now because of that digital divide or the lack of transportation or accessibility to knowledge of these vaccines. So if you can help, if you're in a position to help, please do that, because we can all have a better tomorrow if we just get through this. So with that, I just want to go ahead and thank Sela United, who's been helping through these efforts. Thank our Congresswoman Lucio Royba, who's in session, who has been helping us arduously, fighting for us, advocating for us, to our Supervisor Hilda Solis, to our Assemblywoman Christina Garcia, and to everybody who's been, helping us get our gente vaccinated, our people. We matter. We're the essential workers, and we're really, really, happy and blessed and grateful to be able to, have accessibility now. And that's going to be it for me. So thank you so much. Again, please get vaccinated, and we will have healthier, better, thriving communities very, very soon.
Thank you, Councilmember Flores. And now, Mayor Pro Tem Pulido.
I just want to thank our chief once again and our entire police department for continuously supporting and protecting our community on a daily basis, and for searching for new ways of funding through grant money. I truly respect you and support you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just want to make a remark about the new Bell vaccination site that opened today. I was told, it was announced that there will be transportation to the entire Sela community. So please keep that in mind, that that could be an option. If you don't have a car and you can't make it to Bell by foot, then you can also try to call, or as Councilmember Flores said, you can email them, and they will try to find a way to get you over there with their transportation system. So that's very, very nice of them to be able to do for this particular vaccination site. I do want to respond to the comment made by Mark Alamillo. Well, first of all, Mark, I appreciate you calling. I know that you are now sort of a usual, and I think that we need to see more residents become involved in local government by participating in the public comments. So thank you for sending in your comments. I happen to be talking to the city manager today about some of these issues, so perhaps I will open it up to the city manager to fill us in on some of the quality of life issues, and also some of the illegal fireworks issues that we've had in the past. And as we approach July, the 4th of July, those issues are going to become more and more relevant. So do you have any words, city manager, if you can fill us in on what might be coming down the pipeline for those particular topics?
Yes, Mayor Barson. I think first off, just to address one of the issues we talked about, there was a resident that called in one meeting or two meetings ago, pretty despondent about noise complaints with a neighbor. I think Councilwoman Cortez specifically asked to make sure that we gave him a call. And so that resulted in the police department and community services department with code enforcement setting up decibel meters out near his residence. I think they were out there for several days and they monitored it 3 different times during the day to monitor decibel levels. And they worked with the residents, though, without going into too much detail with it, they worked with the resident and let them know what they were doing, what they were looking for. And then also let them know the results of the review of the decibel meter, and then any future actions that could be taken. And then I think as far as the issues that were brought up, I think, Mayor, we spoke about this, and I've been corresponding with our police department, or with our police chief already in the time that we've talked about just meeting and going back through some of the things that are coming up. Just looking at our noise ordinances, COVID's kind of coming out, and there's a noticeable increase. I see just in parties and people becoming more social, which I think leads to noise issues naturally. And the weather's getting better, parties are coming out and things like that. And then also as far as this will be our second 4th of July with a ban on fireworks. So just looking back at efforts that were taken in the past and ramping up for the future to continue to gain momentum in success in preventing as many of illegal or even legal fireworks, well, they're all illegal here, from continuing to impact the city from an environmental perspective and even just from a noise, pet, special needs child perspective as well. So those will be things that we'll be discussing at a staff level that'll be coming back and being reported to council.
Thank you, City Manager. I really appreciate that. One thing that I wanted to just throw out there, maybe we can talk about it at the next meeting. I know that we, in the last year, we had scheduled a light, what was it, a drone show for 4th of July. I know that those plans fell apart due to the emergencies that came up, but I do feel like maybe perhaps that could be an option now. And if we can maybe prepare or start looking into that again to see if we can have something that will replace the firework show that we used to have many, many, many years ago, but also to give our residents an attraction for them to enjoy during this 4th of July. I've seen some amazing footage of this technology, and I think our residents deserve to witness something beautiful, right? So let's look into that for the next meeting. And that concludes my comments for today. I want to thank everyone for doing such a great job. If there's no objection by the City Council, I will now adjourn the City Council meeting at 7:53 p.m.